Good evening and welcome to Kidlit Live. I'm Arden Jones and I just wanted to apologise as I've been away for a couple of weeks. I don't know, you probably all know, but I started a new job at a literary agency called the Good Literary Agency, and it's just amazing. So I've had some time off to work and to start learning loads of new stuff, and it's been amazing. So many wonderful manuscripts I'm reading. I've met so many lovely people, and I'm just incredibly happy to be a part of the TGLA team. So that's enough about me. This evening, I'm bringing on a wonderful author. She's recently won an award, and we'll find out a little bit more about that soon. Her name is Sidra Ansari, and I met her on one of the Write Mentor courses. So it was a picture book course run by Claire Helen Welsh, who, as you know, is an amazing picture book writer. And me and Sidra, we just hit it off, and we've just stayed in contact ever since, and I'm so excited to bring her on. I've wanted her on the show for ages, so I'm so excited that she's come on tonight. Everyone just say hi if you can. You can send a chat through the YouTube channel. Unfortunately via Twitter it doesn't come through, so if you want to say hello, please do via my YouTube channel. And let's bring Sidra on. Hello.
Hi Arden, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for that lovely introduction.
Thank you for coming on. As I said, I've wanted you on the show for a long time, so I'm so glad that you're finally here. And we've got some of your lovely audio books in the background here as well, and I'm really looking forward to finding out a bit more about those and some more news that's been happening recently. It's all very exciting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to speaking to you as well. Thank you for calling me. Thank you for inviting me.
So what I do is when we start, so because I originally started up this channel with the thoughts that I just wanted to speak to so many different people on their journeys at all different stages of their writing, and I think we all have our own stories to tell when it comes to why we started writing, what we're writing, and why. So the first question that I always ask everyone who comes on, whether they're a writer or an agent or an illustrator, is like, have you always known that's what you want to do? So have you always known you wanted to be a writer?
Right, so that's a really interesting question, because I started off loving stories and, going to the library and enjoying that side of, books and the story world. I had a diary. I worked, when I was at primary school, I remember working for our newspaper, a primary school newspaper, when I was a journalist. I thought, I saw myself as a little journalist, and I interviewed teachers and wrote it all up. And I really enjoyed that side of it. And that sort of happened when I was young, and I was a librarian at my high school. So in hindsight, there are these kind of like markers where I did love reading and I loved the writing world from a very young age. But as happens, what happens quite regularly, happens quite regularly with writers, I feel, is that life kind of takes over, because it's not the kind of job that you can go directly towards and expect success. So I ended up, it was really funny, because I remember this conversation I had with my dad, where I said, I probably want to do English at uni. And he said, oh, well, if you do English, you'll limit your options. You'll end up being a teacher. That's like one of the... And I said, oh, yeah, that's true. And then I did something else instead, and ended up being a teacher anyway. So it's like I came around a different way, but I ended up being a teacher anyway. So yeah, it was just meant to be. And it was only later on in life, after I had the children. We move around quite a lot as a family, and after I had the children, we moved to Leicester. We were there for a year, and just randomly someone messaged me, and they said, there's a course, it's called Becoming a Writer, and it's for adults, and it's at your local library, and it's free. Would you like to go? And I was like, yes. This is like my calling. This is my dream. Some dream that I'd forgotten about for the previous 15 years or so. But I went there, and it was just like this whole world opened up for me, where I felt like I could go for that dream again. It felt like it could become reality. Not because I was immediately a success or anything. It was just, I feel it was like just the hope of becoming a writer, even though I was older. It just sort of, it was lit in me. I had I think before that, I thought I'd missed the chance. I thought that that time had gone and I'd missed the chance. Um, and this is when I was about 36, so going back about 4 or 5, yeah, about maybe 35, like about 4 or 5 years ago. And so I went, I enjoyed it, and that's when I joined the Twitter community. And that's when I really found sort of competitions and places for my writing to be recognized, to be read. And that's when I started my blog. So all these things sort of happened after that course. And it was really lovely because the lady who ran the course, Farhana Sheikh, she actually invited me to sign on to another course the next year. And this was a longer course. And she said, "Oh, you can." And I said, "Oh, no, but I'm moving back to Dudley." And she said, "It's fine. You can do it online." And I was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." So it almost felt like at the time when I needed it, I was able to study virtually and I was able to do it all sort of from home. And it was really flexible and it was all, really relaxed and it was really enjoyable. And then from there, it was this kind of dream that started off. And I think the first book I read about writing was Stephen King's On Writing.
Brilliant.
And it really opened up, isn't
book,
it?
yeah.
It really is one of those that just puts this hope in you. When there's this amazing, fabulous, multimillionaire, writer, and he's saying to you, ordinary you can do it. If you put your mind to it, if you work hard, if you're persistent, if you're okay with rejections, and this image of, I think he says he put a nail on the side of his desk and he would put his rejections, because obviously then they were all physical paper rejections, and he would put them on the nail and he would just have the nail fill up and then he would put another nail in, and then just that image of him being rejected that many times, it really stuck with me. And I thought, this guy, he really knows how to write, and he went through this struggle. And that's when it all came back to me. Hey, I've been writing for quite a while, actually. It's not that I'm starting from scratch. I sort of, yeah, obviously through academia and things like that, you end up writing a lot anyway. But I just thought, this is amazing. Like, it's something I can actually do. And that's when and I feel like Twitter was amazing in that way, that it just opened up all these opportunities. Like competitions and publications who would take short stories, and yeah, so I think it just sort of all grew from there.
Wow.
So I didn't always know, but there was some glimmer of something if you look back. Yeah,
It's so amazing, because I feel this is such a common thing for writers, especially when we come back to it a bit later on, that we've been through. We've always enjoyed writing, but maybe not knowing what we want to write, but we've always enjoyed that writing side, whether it's doing the newspapers at school, whether it's writing in a diary. There's always something that draws you to, like, a pen to paper or on a computer. You just need to get those words out. So it's just amazing. But also, yeah, I totally agree with Twitter. It was an eye opener, and I'm just like gutted it's going the way it's going, because it was the place that I found my people, and so many different things, like you said, the competitions, but like the community of people. And there's so much more, all like the organisations that I had no idea about before, because you get the Writers and Artists Yearbook and you kind of feel like you follow what's in there, but there's a world, another whole world out there that's hiding behind those pages, and they're all so supportive, full of just wonderful writers and illustrators and all sorts of different people in publishing. It's amazing. And Twitter, I hope someone else buys it and it ends up being a wonderful place.
Well, I'm going to cling on to the last moment, so let's see how that goes.
Yes, I am too. I'm not going until, like, I'm literally like the last person there, hanging on for dear life. But...
Yeah, definitely. Agreed. Let's all agree.
So, what genres do you write in? So, obviously, I've spoke about that we both did join the picture book course, and that's how we met. But I know that you write in other genres as well. So,
I do. It's actually quite a complicated question with a long answer. I think if I was to just summarize it, in one sentence, it would just be the fact that I write where I'm drawn to. So whatever I'm doing at that time, whatever I feel that I actually have this. It's really funny. I binge watch classes on writing. Like, it's just, rather than Netflix and streaming this and that, I literally just binge watch writing classes, and like Masterclass, BBC Maestro, and things like that just come up. And one of the things that always seems to come up in this advice that people give is write what you love.
Yeah.
And just write towards your passion, and write and enjoy yourself. And a lot of the time when I listen to a lot of writer interviews, and I don't know why, it's just this kind of, it's just like an obsession really, in a way. It's like, what is it that makes this? For example, I'll read a book I absolutely love, then I'll go straight away to author interviews. Okay, so what was the spark that started this? Why did they start writing, and why is it so fantastic? And usually the answer is because they enjoyed the writing process. I've never ever heard somebody say, somebody successful like that, say, I was going for my multi-million-dollar deal, or I really wanted to give up my day job. It's usually the project that they were doing on the side that they were enjoying, that becomes so successful, because the love of what they were doing shone through.
Yeah.
So it's like really interesting, and that's why and then another thing, another sort of prong to the answer to that question, second prong, is that I've always, so when it comes to like parenting and things like that, there's this book, and it's called What Do You Really Want for Your Children? And it's by Wayne Dyers. And I came across this as a parent.
I'll listen back, and I'll write that down, because that sounds interesting.
What Do You Really Want for Your Children? I think it's a title similar to that, if it's not that one, by Wayne Dyers. And the one thing he really explains, or the sort of the crux of the whole book, is that you need to bring up your children as though they are limitless beings. So try to tell them or show them that the whole world is their oyster, and they can do or be anything they wish if they just put the effort in, and they just, persist at something, and that no doors are closed, right? So and I really took this in as I was a young parent, and I thought that it applied to me too. So and I actually noticed, saying that, it wasn't just me reading that book, it was actually the fact that I noticed that my parents did that to us. They said, whatever you want to be, put your mind to it, put the effort in, work hard, and you'll get there. And they never ever said to us, no, that's too much, that's too far, you're going too far, calm down, bring down your expectations, not going to happen, never going to happen for you. They never ever said that. So if I think back to my childhood, I think my parents did say, you're going to be, even now they'll say it to my siblings. So my sister really loves writing too, and they're still saying to her, you're going to do it as well. They never ever said that it's going to be, no, do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like that limitless kind of idea. So that's when it comes to genres, I haven't limited myself in any way. And I feel it's really sad when I see authors that I really love, and they talk about books that they've had to leave in interviews because their publisher felt that it wasn't on brand and things like that. And it really kind of resonates with me. I'm like, but we should have gone to another publisher. You should have just done what you needed to do to get your work out there. And you should have been in that space where you are still writing what you love. So it's really strange, isn't it? Because with writing, there's a side of the passion and the love, and there's the other side, which is the business side. So sometimes the business side takes over, because obviously the publishers and the agents, they want to make money from your writing. Yeah. So it makes sense that they wouldn't necessarily want every single idea that you have or every single book, because obviously they're there for a reason. They put the money into marketing, they've got a brand, and maybe the second or third idea you have doesn't fit the brand. So it kind of, I'm not saying that it's unfair that they do that to authors. It kind of makes sense that, that they wouldn't want to back every single project because it might not make money. But at the same time, it's such a shame for the authors, isn't it, to be in this kind of rut. And I always feel like, if I ever felt anything about being an author, or what I want to be like when I'm older, when I'm more established.
Oh, I love that.
So that's what I would think. I would think that actually it would be nice to be able to write whatever I want to write, rather than slotting into someone else's idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of who I was.
Yeah. But the thing is, with publishing, there's these trends all the time, and what you've written might not be right, but not right now. So something that you've written that you've loved and you've put your heart and soul into, it might not sell at this moment because it's not what publishers are looking for. but it doesn't mean that that's like a no forever. And I feel like a lot of the time authors think, oh, that hasn't sold. Like, I've been out on submission that hasn't sold, but it's not because it's not good. It's just that at the moment it's not what they're looking for. So it doesn't mean that it's gone forever. You can just put it on a shelf and then open it up again a bit later, and that passion might still be there. Or you might even feel like you want to change something, because I don't know if you're anything like me. I'll read something that I've written, especially if I've shelved it for a while, and I'm like, okay, no, I want to add to that. And
100%. Yeah.
But I think, but following trends is always going to, not always, there are going to be some people that can slide into that gap and quickly write something and sell it at that moment. But writing takes time. I mean, not everybody can just get out a first draft in a month, or half, like in 6 months, a year even. So by the time you've tried to follow that trend, that's going to change. So it's absolutely right to follow your heart, just write what you love, and that to come, because that will really show in your writing, in your book, and is more likely, I think, to catch the eye of someone who wants to sell it, because they'll fall in love with it as well, because it's written from the heart. And I think you're absolutely right that it's really important. And I love that. I love that you're not like putting yourself in a bracket, or I can't think of the word, but you're not limiting yourself. You're like anything. And I love that. I think that's brilliant. And what amazing parents to give that to you. That's just it's so wonderful to hear.
Thank you. I think you touched on something there that I really believe that any effort that you put in is never going to be wasted.
Absolutely.
So whether it's now or later, somebody somewhere will benefit. And I truly believe that. So as long as you put the effort in and work from the heart, it will get somewhere, and it will touch somebody, and it will do something, and it might be something that might come years later. But it's never wasted. And like you said, if you've done some work and you've shelved it, you can come back to it and actually think, oh, I think I know how to improve that now. Like, you read it in a different way, or so I think that's huge, because if you have the mindset that no time is wasted, you can just have fun doing what you need to do, and all the different ways that come to you, thinking that step by step, day by day, things should be improving somehow. Some progress is being made somewhere.
Absolutely. I mean, even if you go back and you read it yourself, and it might not sell. It might be something that's never sells, but it's still your book baby, and you're still going to love it forever. But that has still taught, what you've put into that has taught you so much as you're writing. And I mean, some people don't share stuff, but if you share it with critique partners and things, the feedback that you give to them and that you take from them as well will just be so helpful on your journey, that even if it's not going to sell, it's still something that you've learned from and that you've loved doing. And if you've loved doing it, you're going to carry on. And that's most important. If you're just slogging away because you want to write like whatever is on trend right now, like romantasy novel, but you don't write that, but you're just writing it because that's what everyone's looking for, then it's going to be difficult. Some people can do that. I'm not one of those people. I need to write with the heart, for sure.
Yeah, brilliant.
So let's talk some super exciting news. So behind us you can see lots of Sidra's gorgeous books, and so she's recently won Audiobook of the Year at the Week Junior Awards for these gorgeous Ladybird audiobooks. So I've already said congratulations, but I'm going to say congratulations again, because it is amazing. I've shared it on Twitter because it's just the best thing, and anywhere I can I will, because I'm just so it's just amazing, and what an achievement.
Thank you.
So could you tell us a little bit more about these books? How did this come about? How, not just winning, but the books and writing them. How about the journey, and how are you feeling?
So
the most important thing. How
definitely.
are you feeling about it?
Super exciting. It's part of the reason why I'm on here tonight, isn't it? It's just like buzzing from the news, and I was like, Arden, do you still want to interview me? I'm ready, it's that kind of thing. But with the I was the Penguin Right Now live event event a few years ago when I first started writing for underrepresented writers, and I put in this short story that I'd already kind of worked on as the beginning of a novel, and my women's fiction novel, which we'll come to later. But and that got through. And we had an amazing day. It was a fantastic event, but I didn't get through to the next round. And I remember thinking, oh, well, that was great. Like we had such a good time. And at that time, I actually thought that was my one chance and that I'd missed it. And I'm really, really happy to say that that wasn't the case. I came away from that event, put it onto my Twitter bio, been to Penguin Right Now Live, and then just sort of carried on. And there was a really random event, actually, because I put on, I think it was a tweet. I actually tweeted that I was looking for work. And Louis Stoll got back to me and she said, Sidra, are you still looking for work? We need a writer for a children's series that we're just developing in Ladybird. And I hadn't known at the time, but she was one of my Twitter friends, and I hadn't known that she was a commissioning editor at Ladybird at the time. So we had, got to a phone call, and she ended up being my editor for my first books, which were Ancient Egypt, Ancient Rome, and Incredible Inventors. So I managed to get sort of a mini book deal there. It was really funny because I think we do need to speak about the fact that it was a series that was already established. So I didn't need an agent for this. As a writer, I could just come in, do the work, they pay me, and then I don't get royalties. I'm not really involved in like the after sort of success of it. So that's how it started. That's how the journey started. And then thankfully they kept me on as a writer for the next few years, and I carried on sort of writing here and there. And I think that's where the imposter syndrome comes in as well, because I'd be asked, I think I was asked a couple of times by Ladybird editors, when sort of Slew Stole sort of moved on and I had other editors, and they sort of said, oh, so have you got an agent? When they put the, send the contract through, they have to write the agent into the contract. And I would say no, and it sort of got me thinking, maybe I do need to get an agent. So I started querying and saying, I've got these contracts, and could you maybe represent me? And then the answers that I got were actually no, because you don't need representation for these. You only get representation for your original work, and we don't usually, represent authors for these. And I was like, okay, all right. And it was just kind of like this learning curve. I was like, okay, what I need to do is then write my original work, and then I'll get an agent on side, and then maybe I'll get more work. So that was my kind of like thinking behind that. So Natural Wonders of the World is a title that came to me last year. So we went through it. My editor was James Keats, and we went through the fact that, when we were talking, we were going back and forth about what we should write about. And one of the things that came up was that we need to talk about how to protect the natural wonders and what people are doing these days to preserve them for future generations. And I think that maybe that was something that hit a note with the judges. But what was absolutely amazing about this is that it came as a complete surprise in the way that I found out months after it was published that it had been picked up for this prize. And the thing with Ladybird as well is that your name doesn't go on the cover. So and it's in the blurb. So if you look at websites, it'll say Sidra Ansari, but it's not on the cover and it's not on the audiobook. So what was really lovely is that when the Week Junior picked the book for the award, they actually wanted to know who wrote it. And that's when the publicity, and that's when that came through. They asked for a headshot, they asked for a bio, they asked. So it was really amazing to actually be part of that, which I feel that, like I said, it was totally unexpected. And then to be invited to the event was already really exciting. It was the first time I was meeting the Ladybird team in real life.
Oh, wow.
After having worked with them for about 4 years. One of the ladies who I worked with, Becky Brown, she couldn't make it, bless her, she wasn't well, and that still feels like a bit of a downer for me, but I hope to meet her one day still in real life. She's moving on to Scholastic now, but I've still, we said we'll keep in touch, and I hope to meet her one day. But and she was quite a big, sort of player in my Ladybird time. but yeah, so we went and we were already excited. Like we were like buzzing about the fact that we got to meet each other in real life, and we got to the awards, and it was in London, the County Hall, Waterloo, London Eye is outside, and it was just, and I got a couple of days off
What
work.
an amazing
So
building, the County Hall.
yeah, it was just really lovely. Yeah, and then we had a conversation about what would happen if one of us had to go for the award, and I confess that I'll be relieved if I didn't win, because then I don't have to worry about the stage and navigating what to do and how to do it and what to say, because what on earth am I going to say in front of all these people, all the real authors. So what was amazing was when they called the name of the book, and we just all looked at each other in utter shock. Yeah, and then we just had to go. I mean, yeah, we had to go through with it, and it was one of those moments where you see yourself on the stage and you're someone else, and you're just like watching yourself. What's she going to say now? Because everyone's watching her.
What did you say?
Did
you stumble? Did it all come out?
Do you know what? Actually, so I actually went up the wrong side of the stage. I went up to the podium instead of going up to get the award. Nina Wadia was actually presenting, so she was on the other side, you know, the lady in Goodness Gracious Me. So she was on the other side, and she was waiting with her hand ready to shake somebody's, and with the trophy, got beautiful award in the other hand, and I was like, oh, sorry. So I kind of misstepped, went to the podium, went to her. She didn't know what, because we all went up there, so she didn't know who the person was who wrote the book. And then finally I got the award, shook her hand, stopped for a couple of photos, went up the podium. My first words were, I am in utter shock. And it was just like, now you have to say something, Sidra. So I managed to thank, you know, the people I need to thank, Ladybird team, Week Junior, my parents, and, you know, my family and everyone for supporting me. And the Week Junior, for them to actually launch these awards, because they were the inaugural awards, they've never done them before, and just for them to recognize audiobooks as a genre, as a category, was fantastic. And then to come on top, you won't believe the shortlist. We were just shocked. We were like, really? We won. It was just like crazy. And then just having the award in my hands and just staring. I remember the moment of just getting it and staring at it, and then going back. And then they take you to another part of the building where you speak to somebody and answer questions. And I don't know where that's going to come up now. I don't, someone actually, I don't remember what I said, to be honest. They asked questions, and there was a video camera there. And it was like super surreal.
Amazing.
And then afterwards, we got to have pictures together. So we had some really funny poses that we did beforehand, because like we were just there for a laugh, and then we won. We were like, oh my gosh, we're gonna have to actually pose with the award now. So I think I came back thinking that was a surprise of the decade, I think. But it was amazing to be recognized, and even more just really satisfying to know that this audiobook now is going to be heard by a lot more people. And that's why we write, isn't it? It's like to be read, to be heard, for people to experience your words. Yeah, that's why we do it. So
that's so amazing. Oh, it's just brilliant. Huge congratulations.
Thank you.
I've said it already, but it's an amazing achievement, and something that you are going to just take forward with you in your writing. And that, like you said earlier in a conversation, you was worrying about imposter syndrome, and at the moment you're beating that imposter syndrome away with your wonderful award. So keep it at bay.
Thank you. Thank you. Like I said to you, I wonder how long it will stay away.
That's the thing, with imposter syndrome, I think we all get it. So when we get it, although it's really hard, if we can take some kind of like positive from it, the fact that all writers get it, even like the multi-million bestseller writers get it, we're doing something right. If we just thought we was amazing all the time, we probably aren't. So I'm taking it as a pot of.
Well, that's really
at the moment,
reassuring.
Like when I've not written any of my YA for a while, so probably when I dive back into that imposter syndrome will just hit me back in the face and just be a brick wall in front of me. But at the moment, I'm like, no, I'm better than that. But we
need to beat it, don't we?
Yeah, it's a naughty little thing. We had a quick mention of a few things earlier, some sort of resources that you've used. So we spoke about Write Mentor and the picture book class that we did. You've used Stephen King's on writing and that very first writing course that you went on. So is there any other resources that you use, or would you, you also recommended Masterclass, but for other people starting to get into writing, what would you recommend for them?
Yeah, so I guess it depends on what genre you want to write in. So I think resources wise, I really do recommend finding a like-minded community. So like I said, I haven't limited myself with genres. So when it comes to picture books, whether I think we did a rhyming one, did I do that with you? No, yeah. So I did a picture book one with you, and then I did a rhyming one, which was led by Catherine Emmett as well. So for picture books, I would recommend Write Mentor. For older children's fiction, because I actually have started I don't like doing things by half, so I've actually started a middle grade magical novel as well. So yeah, it's quite exciting. So I started that with Golden Egg.
Okay.
I did their 12-week course. So for younger children's fiction and even up to YA, I would recommend Golden Egg, because I think that they really know what they're doing. They've got their editors. Everything is just super value for money. If you have a membership, they give a lot for that membership.
Do you mean the Golden Egg Club or the 12 months course?
Sorry, so I did the 12-week course.
Oh, the 12-week
and then
course,
I'm also part of, so I did the course, and then I'm also part of the club. And the club in itself is, I think it's like £12 a month or something, but it's well worth being part of that community, because you get all these cheerleaders, and it's really positive, and you have editor lives weekly where you can ask questions on whatever you're doing, and then they have this massive archive of old classes that they taught. And lots of interviews. So like I said, I love binge watching these author interviews, and just to get into the mind of the authors and what they were thinking when inspiration hit, and how they dealt with that and how they got through. So that's amazing for that. And then the third genre, you could say that I'm writing, is women's fiction. So for that, I was part of the Novelry, and I did their 90-day novel course, and I did the Big Edit course, and I thoroughly recommend it. It's fantastic. So, and to be honest, what I've learned, like the biggest thing that I've learned after doing these courses and things, is that everything's going to take time. So patience is a huge lesson. And then to go back to enjoying the process is super important. So rather than worrying about the outcome or trying to complete things really fast, if you get into the habit of writing often, so I'm not going to say every day, because obviously everyone's got their opinion about that, and you can't necessarily write every day. There are things that happen and that get in the way and things like that, and it's not necessarily the right thing for everybody either. So somebody can write the same amount on a weekend, for example, but as long as you're writing regularly and you've sort of like made yourself some time, and you've got a slot of writing time for yourself, and you're enjoying going back to the page, then you're doing really well as a writer. So rather than worrying about the outcome, I think just enjoying the process, having a process and then enjoying it, that I feel is excellent. And then I think one of the things Neil Gaiman said in one of the masterclasses that I watched is that one of the things is to finish what you're doing. And it sounds really obvious, but it's like, finish your project. So if you say you want to write something, put a deadline to it. So give yourself some time and then do it. Actually finish it. Go to the page every day, get it done. And then if you want to do something else, do something else. But keep finishing the things that you start, because what happens, and I don't know about you, but what happens to me is that as soon as I get really into a project, something else catches my eye, or I get this other idea, and I'm like, oh, that's going to be a better idea. So I'm just going to trash this and start something else, and then I'll start that, and then I get sort of midway through, depending on what I'm writing, trash that, go to that. So I've got quite a few things like that on my laptop right now. It's like little bits of this and that. And then through following the advice of my brother, he said something once to me that really stuck with me. It was a good few years ago. And he said, you need to just do one thing. And look, again, it's so simple. One thing at a time. And apparently there's a book and it's called One Thing at a Time. And he read it and he was like, you know, inspired. And basically it's this kind of idea of imagine digging a hole, and you go back to that same hole every week and you dig a little bit more. Okay, so after a month, after a year, you'll get somewhere. Something will have changed. You would have tried, you know, you would have maybe hit gold. But if you're digging a hole here, then everywhere, every week, and you maybe go back to the first one or the second one, but then you get, you know, you're attracted again to the seventh one, and you go back to that, and you know, you're doing that. And after a year or two, you can't really see any progress. You can't really see that anything's changed. So so that's what I tried to do in the last year or two. So I spent about a year on picture books, and I spent about a year on the women's fiction novel now.
Wow.
So
That's a really
yeah.
good like willpower, though, to have that willpower to change how you've been working, to then just saying, okay, no, I'm not going to do what I usually do. I'm just going to focus on one. How hard was that? I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm very similar to how you was like, and I have so many picture books that I'm like, I have ideas for, and I start writing them, and then like something comes up and I either stop writing that, or I'm like, oh, I don't like that one at the moment, so I'll do another. And yeah, I have a lot of half dug holes, so and yeah,
so
I need to
I think
dig
it's
my
really
hole.
common. No, I think it's really common. And I think what really helps with picture books is that you can't, because I feel like it really works well. I mean, it might be really odd if someone hears that I write women's fiction and picture books. It's like, what? That's like completely opposite sides of the spectrum. But I feel that I'm a teacher, I'm a mum. I do read a lot of picture books. I read a lot of, you know, easy sort of fiction, and I come across that a lot. So I feel that continuously inspired by what I see. I'm just like, oh, I could do something like that. And it just comes to me. And the amazing thing about picture books is that you can get the bulk of an idea down in a couple of sessions, would you say? Like 1 or 2 sessions where you can actually vomit draft something and feel that, yeah, okay, I know what I'm doing with that. And what's lovely is that after a couple of hours, maybe you're working on the fiction, women's fiction, I can't do more than a couple of hours a day. It feels too intense, and it takes up a lot of energy and effort.
Yeah.
So after that couple of hours is over, it's so lovely to go back to the picture book sort of genre, because it's short, it's snappy. You've got to tell the story in a shorter amount of words. You've got to think of, you know, similes and metaphors. You've got to use alliteration and think of unique words and what kind of words sound good. And it's like a different side
Completely
of
different.
writing.
Yeah.
And it's just really enjoyable, and I almost use it as like a palate cleanser in that way. So when I go back to my women's fiction, it's like I've had a little bit of a time away from it. So don't get me wrong, I don't do both every day, but it's so lovely to have. So if I look at my women's fiction, and you're right, it does take a lot of effort to go back to the same project every day. It really does. And sometimes it's so lovely to have something. So if I'm not feeling like going back into the women's fiction, I can actually say, all right, I'll go into see what I've got in my Kidlit side, you know, and see if I can work with anything like anything. And usually there are enough things to keep me occupied. So like you said, I think that does help if you are someone who gets ideas often. Picture books is a really good thing to do, because you can actually handle a few things at a time, can't you?
Yeah.
You can actually flit from one to the other quite comfortably and say, right, let me just reread this. And every time you read it, hopefully your inner editor is like, right, okay, I know what to do. Like you can do it quite methodically and enjoy it. And it's shorter, so it's almost doable in a shorter amount of time. Yeah,
absolutely. So when it comes to writing either picture books, your magical middle grade that I'm looking forward to hearing more about at some point, how do you actually write them? Are you a plotter? Are you a pantser? Do you mix it up? I'm a bit of a mix.
So this is really interesting, because the confession I'm gonna give you right now. So I'm gonna make
to change it to Confessions with Arden Jones, aren't I?
Yeah, exactly. So when I read a book on writing and he said that he was a pantser, I feel like I misunderstood, and I thought that he meant that he literally sits down and writes every day without any idea about where the story's going at all. So I actually followed that advice for a couple of months, and he said to write 1,000 words a day for 90 days, and in the end you have 90,000 words. And that was what I was going towards. And I think around the 40,000 word mark on my first ever try of my novel, I just hit, this stone wall, and I was like, I can't go any further. And it was because I hadn't thought it out. Like, I kind of didn't think through the whole story. And I actually, I misunderstood in the way that I thought that it would just happen naturally through. Yeah, so I completely, that wasn't true. It didn't happen naturally, and I got stuck, and I had to go back to, books about stories. So now I'm super excited about the book, Save the Cat Writes a Novel.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so that gives you that scaffolding that I feel that your stories need, especially if you're doing something longer. Yeah. So if you're doing, and we did story structure, didn't we, with Claire in the picture book one. So it's just huge. I mean, I feel like it's funny because everything that I learned with the picture books, it applies to real stories. So it has
the character arc, the 3-act structure.
Hey, exactly. It's got to start off with an inciting incident. It's got to go into, the middle. Things have got to kind of, what's the word, when escalate. Yeah, so the events maybe
get to the climax point, and then
you've got a midpoint, and then exactly. So you've got a midpoint, and that makes sense even with longer fiction. And it's like, and so I apply that now. So I feel that I'm a pantser, but I need a scaffolding. So it's like I don't think of every single detail. Yeah. So I don't think of every single detail because I feel that's sometimes it's suffocating to know exactly what I'm going to write. I find that I'm more excited to write the next day if I don't really know what's going to happen. If I allow myself to just imagine and relax and sort of dream it up. And sometimes it's according to whatever happens that day in the novel is happens according to what I've read, or maybe it could be something that's happened in my life that just kind of makes its way in, or so it's like you can use real life situations, or even things like a description of something might go in there just because I went to the park that day and I saw something by the canal. So it's like somehow that's just got into there, and it's just using the real life situations and scenarios and descriptions that make the book live. That's how I do it basically. So pantser, plotter, both.
I always sound like I'm a bit of a plantser or a patter, like of a bit of a mixture. I mean, I have written where I've totally like plotted it out, but then I end up just going slightly off that anyway. So I'm like, what's the point? I've just wasted all that time totally plotting something. But when I've sat down to do it, these little ideas just come in, and these other characters might come in, and I'm just like, it doesn't mean they're wrong. I'm just going to go with it and see what happens. But I think it depends on what I'm writing, how I'm feeling that day as well, really. And I think like what you said about, using real life situations, or maybe like even something like people watching is what you often get told to do as writers. Just go and sit in a cafe and just watch people and make notes, or at the park, watch people and make notes. And you can use those personalities of these people that you've seen or that you imagine them to have, because they are probably completely different to what you're imagining. And you can use them as a character in your book, but getting that inspiration by watching people is an amazing thing to do, because of course you might not have thought about that. You might not have thought about them, their way of maybe they touch their hair or something, what they do with their body, and it's all really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that's the fun part, isn't it, of writing, where you document things that happen around you and you're working. So it's like, daydreaming, looking out the window, and
I mean that's still working, right? Just thinking about
movies
stuff.
And
you're writing.
You can watch movies and just like study the arc.
Yeah.
And my kids have got used to me doing this thing where I notice where they're so annoyed about this, but it's like I notice where the soul, the darkest night of the soul, it usually happens 3/4 of the way into a movie, and because they usually follow these, the Save the because it was originally for screenplays, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That the book. So the one by Jessica Brody now, it's the one for novels, but it was originally a screenplay.
She's recently done a YA one as well, which has just come out.
Actually,
yeah, I wonder how much different that is, because I would say it's quite similar as I've not read the YA one, but yeah, interesting.
I would say it's probably quite similar. But yeah, I forgot what I was going to say now.
Sorry, that's my fault. I totally just cut in and took over. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Something about Save the Cat. Oh yeah, that was it. The Darkest Night of the Soul. So every time I feel that this is it, the character, they've lost everything. They've got no reason to live. You know, everything, the worst things have happened to them, and they don't know what to do. That is a Darkest Night. Okay, click, and we have to click the remote and see it's 3/4 of the way. It usually is 3/4 of the way. So it's like, even watching movies, you can, you know, analyze the structure and get inspiration for writing your own thing.
Why is it not getting predictable? It's like, that's the thing, isn't it? You think, like, is it predictable? But actually, it's how you do it. It's, yes, this structure works, and it works for a reason, and it's been going for since, like, how far back in history since we started telling stories. It's always kind of had that similar structure, so it's proven to work, and it's proven to grab our attention, and it's proven to take our emotions through these waves of like absolute climax to just like petrified of what might happen, till we just go, and it's just something that we love. But how you do that differently every time is something really amazing. And that's what I love about books and films as well, and TV shows. You just get to learn all different ways of doing it, and guessing. I love a bit of a guessing as I'm going along, and I'm like, or finding plot holes, because that's another thing I always do, which is annoying. I probably really annoy my husband. I'm like, this wouldn't have happened. They wouldn't have done this. We touched slightly on querying earlier, when you mentioned about that, when you was having your work published with Ladybird for the audiobooks, and he's like, well, have you got an agent? And you was like, oh, okay, so I need to find an agent. It's really tough out there to find an agent. The market is really difficult to break into, so anything you do has got to like stand out against so many other amazing books out there. So how has your querying journey been? Are you still querying for picture books and for your women's fiction? How's it all going?
Yeah, so with the querying, it's really funny, because it's true, there is stiff competition and you really have to stand out, but also you have to keep going. So going back to what Stephen King said about the rejections. So he had a nail on the side of his desk and he just filled it with rejections. And there's an amazing article. I don't know if you've read it, Arden, actually. It's called, I don't know, what's it called? Something to do with aiming for 100 rejections a year.
Oh, I don't know this. No, I don't know.
It's absolutely fun. Like, I'll tag you on Twitter. Like, I'll find it and I'll tag you.
Oh, yes, please.
On Twitter. It's just fantastic. Like, it's so inspiring. So instead of going for success and counting your successes, flip it over and start counting your rejections, and go for 100 rejections a year. So weirdly, it's like reframing.
I'm like, what?
Yeah. So it's like reframing the rejections to success. So every time you get a rejection, like, excellent, another one in the bag, another one. And what happens when you do that, amazingly, is that you find success. Because what happens is you're kind of ignoring the times that you haven't got through. And so what I would say is that, you know, the iceberg mountain, the one where so the iceberg is all the effort that you put in, and everybody else sees the tip of the iceberg. And they think, oh my gosh, you know, overnight success, you've done so well, but they don't see all the effort that you put in. They don't see the struggle, they don't see the rejections, right?
Yeah.
So what happens is, when you keep putting your work out there, you're the tip of the iceberg is what everyone sees, and that's what they comment on, and that's what they're excited about. And it seems outwardly like you're super successful, but then really you've just been through so many rejections that nobody knows about. So that's what it is. It's like magic. So basically, the more you put yourself out there, the more you're willing to, you know, with courage and determination and persistence, put your words out there, keep going, keep writing the stories, keep believing, keep hoping, and the more chance you have of actually getting through, winning prizes, being shortlisted, getting published. So short stories of mine were published. I managed to get a book deal for my non-fiction book. You know, things happen. And the Ladybird thing, you know, so many, and Penguin Right Now. So things like that, Penguin Right Now happened because I was putting my work out there, and it wouldn't have happened if I didn't believe that, you know, there was so yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So the more you put your work out there, the more you believe, the more you start counting rejections instead of successes, you'll realize that you're increasing your chances of getting where you need to be. So it's like the lottery, right? If you want to win the lottery, you need to buy all the tickets. If you buy more tickets, you'll have more chance of winning. I mean, it's a small chance, but it's definitely a bigger chance than you would if you didn't play the lottery.
Absolutely.
So it's like, yeah. And I remember actually there was this family at primary school. Like, honestly, it's this like memory of mine that I have, this vision of these two children. And every Friday when the teachers read from the Golden Book and people got awards, every Friday these two children would have won a competition or another. And I'd think, how do these guys always win the competitions? Like, you know, the ones that you see on the back of, well, in those days, cereal packets or, you know, your diary drink or whatever. And they would have, you know, collected all these tokens and they would have entered the competitions. And I remember at a young age thinking, well, it must be because they're always entering competitions. They're always entering them.
Yeah.
We're not entering any. You know, so it's really interesting. And those people were always, it felt like it was every week. It might have been every month, you know, but at that time I remember thinking that why is it that they can't be that special that they always win the competition?
That's amazing, is it? It's like is it the lottery? I think it was like a lottery game. You've got to be in it to win it. So it's absolutely that. But I remember watching, and I've totally forgotten his name, that like super famous hypnotherapist guy. I forgot his name, and he done like, it was one of his TV shows, and it was like this guy who thought he was so unlucky. He was like, I'm the most unluckiest person. But what it actually comes down to is the fact that he didn't actually ever try and do anything. So like, he didn't say yes to anything, he didn't enter any competitions, and like he done like this hypnotherapy sort of session on him, or just like chatted, and said, now you're going to say yes to things, now you're going to start taking advantage of these things that you can enter. And he ended up just like winning stuff and succeeding because he was actually saying yes and putting himself out there, and not just going, oh, I'm just so unlucky. And I think, you know, unless you really do put, and it's so true with writing, if you don't put yourself out there and you don't enter these competitions, or you don't query yourself because you're too worried about what someone might think or getting rejected, you're never going to get that success if you don't put, you know, yourself out there. Someone's not just going to magically go, oh, I've just thought of it. I know someone who's wrote a book. Like, you have to put yourself out there for them people to read it. And that's, I think that's amazing what you said. Absolutely true.
Yeah. So I think your question was on queries, wasn't it?
It was, yes. What's your query?
So when it comes to queries, I think I've maybe slowed down looking for representation for my picture book writing at the moment, because I was concentrating on my women's fiction novel. So that's what I've been querying since around April this year. And I've also started a new job around the same time, actually, which is really nice, because then I didn't have to worry about waiting around for answers. I've been quite busy teaching and things like that, so that's really nice. As the, you know, rejections come through, I've been
you're nailing them,
distracted by other things,
printing them out.
So what's really lovely is that I think I mentioned to you before, but this is my second attempt at a women's fiction novel, and it's the same story, but the second attempt is I wrote after my course at the Novelry. At the time, I wanted to write something brand new, but this character, Farida, she didn't leave me, and she kept coming back to me, and it was almost like, you need to tell my story, just tell my story and then I'll let you go. So it was that kind of feeling, and I just thought, all right, I'm gonna have to rewrite the whole thing. So I actually started from scratch with Farida's story, and it was an absolutely joyous experience. I just loved it. I loved learning about how to make the story, like you said, satisfying for the reader. So it was all about following the arc, having, you know, a midpoint, having the darkest night of the soul, things like that. And I actually got to the point where I sent it off to my beta readers. I got lovely feedback. I was able to work on that feedback, and then I sent it again, you know, to agents, and I actually got some lovely feedback. So it's the first novel that I sent last year. I didn't really hear anything. So let's be honest, you know, it was like form rejections, or yeah, this needs. I think, to be honest, even the word count wasn't great. The word count, I thought, all right, let's just make it a novella. So it was like 50,000 words. So even that, I feel like it let it down as a story. So I didn't really hear anything from that one. And the second time, yeah, it was actually quite positive in the way that I got full manuscript requests, and I had people sort of racing to read it and things like that, which is so lovely, and it really gave me that hope that, oh my god, something might happen here. And then yeah, I just recently heard that the last two, it didn't actually work out the way I thought it would, and my strategy for the querying was just to do it in waves. So I queried 6 agents, and I'm going to use this feedback to query 6 more. But I actually thought I'd have more specific feedback, but this time it was like we just didn't fall in love with the novel. So I don't, it's weird, but it's actually
hard to take, but it's got the best feedback in a way, isn't it? Because you just know it's, as we all say, it's so subjective. What isn't right for that particular agent or that agency doesn't mean it's not right for another. It's just agents have to love, like the way we have to love our stories, have to have that as well, because otherwise they would struggle to sell it. They need that passion.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So it's so I am really super happy to start my second novel, thinking that I will just carry on submitting the first one while I do the second one. And I'm hoping, and I already feel different about the second one because it is something brand new, and now I feel like all I need to do is finish it. So I'm not putting pressure on myself. I just know that I need to finish the vomit draft, finish the story, tell the story to myself, and then I'll decide what the story is. And then you know, so I feel like I've kind of got the process in my head now. And there was a point, you know, I'm not going to just I'm not going to lie. There was a point where I really thought that maybe I shouldn't be a women's, like maybe I shouldn't be writing fiction, because it's something that I really enjoyed doing. I had beta readers who loved it, and for some reason it didn't get picked up straight away, because you always have that, even though you know that these stories where it gets picked up in a day or two, even though you know those stories are rare, you still have that feeling in you that it could happen.
That hope, don't lose the hope, though.
You still have that.
Yeah,
and the fact that it didn't happen in the first few days, it was really funny. Like I had a really I had this realization, I'm not going to be one of those people where, you know, they pick it up straight away. But then I haven't lost hope. It's really fun, because I do know that there was probably maybe a few weeks or a couple of months where I felt like, oh, forget it. I'm not going to write anything else. It's okay. I'm just going to I can keep querying stuff, going to a different genre, like why I do it, right? That's why I've got all these options in front of me. I'm not going to limit myself straight back into women's fiction. It was after reading Claire Daverley's book Talking at Night. I read that and I was like, right, that's it, women's fiction. It's amazing, it's fantastic, it's so moving. Oh my goodness.
I love that when that happens.
Yeah. So then I realized then that's my calling. I just need to carry on until I get somewhere, I think. Yeah.
Well, just wishing you so much luck with that, because I absolutely believe this is going to happen for you soon. I just want to say we're actually coming up to the hour, and unfortunately Instagram doesn't let me upload anything longer than an hour. But my next question was about what's next for you. So I feel like we've kind of just spoke about that, quite like about the books that you're about to write. I mean, is there anything else you want to share with us before we
yeah,
go?
I think it's just the magical middle grade novel that I'm working on at the same time. So it's just I'm just sort of flitting between the two at the moment.
I'd love to read that if you'd
so
like
it's
another
actually
bit of reader, then
yeah. So I would love to pass it on to you. So it's where art history meets wizardry. So it's quite creative, and it's sort of like the penny crayon of the wizarding world. So you know how she draws anything and it comes to life, that kind of thing. And the protagonist is Inaya Sultan, and she's a foster. She's been fostered, and she finds out who her real mum is, and she realizes that she's locked in the underground of a dungeon on St. Michael's Mount in Cornwall. So that's where it's going to be set, and that's where
beautiful setting.
Beautiful setting. I absolutely love that place. Yeah. So that's what's happened. That's what's next. That's what I'm working on with the middle grade. And that is now going to become my palate cleanser between the women's fiction stuff and see where I get with that. Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for having me. Honestly, it's been wonderful, amazing.
It's been brilliant to have you on. I've absolutely loved chatting with you. I feel like I could chat with you for ages. I mean, like
I know that hour just went
I had
so
to cut
quickly.
that hour short. I was like, oh no, I've got this question. But no, it's been brilliant, and I thank you so much for coming on. I really, really appreciate your time that you've had to spend with me, and I hope everybody else has enjoyed it. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, and I just can see how passionate you are and how positive you are when it comes to writing, and it just shines through you. So it will eventually, this is going to happen for you because you're keeping going and you believe. So, and I think that's so important. So well done. And again, massive congratulations on winning that award.
Thank you so much.
Just stroke it every night. I'd be like, oh, good night.
Yeah, definitely. They've got it at the Ladybird offices at the moment. They promised me they're going to send it to me, but it's at the Ladybird office. But yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much, Sidra. I'll catch up with you soon.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, take care.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.
It was so great having Sidra on the show. I really hope, I mean, I've taken so much inspiration from her, and now I just feel like I just want to get to open my files and just start writing. So thank you, Sidra, because it was just amazing, so inspirational, and what a lovely person. So I just thank you so much, everybody, for joining in. I'm really excited for next week's guest. I'm actually on Tuesday next week, and it's with Emma Reynolds. So I will share some promo stuff and just get the hype up going for Emma, because I'm really excited to chat to her too. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and I will see you all next week. See you later. Bye.